Shalom, call Lord Yahweh by Shema Shai Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops, salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathens that look like the heathens. And to the Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson. That was a video that came out a couple days back, maybe about 3-4 days ago, with one of the leaders, teachers in IUIC speaking on fornication and saying that fornication and adultery are one and the same when they are not. Sexual sin is you have to understand, because it's a basically fornication is the worshiping other gods. Like on the third video, you see it says the heavy cost of fornication, and there's an image of Buddha, and then there's an image of Cesare Borgia. That would actually be accurate. But as far as fornication being sexual sins, perverse sex, like doing it in the butt, or even doing it on the Sabbath, that would be a sin. All right. Something that they don't teach. All right. And I'm going to use the scriptures to defend the gospel and give you give you the law, because all the scripture is law, for that matter. And let you see for yourself, because you are part of these guys. These are 501c3 charter, guys who basically made a deal with Esau Edom. All right. Which is why they teach the way that they teach. They can't talk about certain things. They can't teach about certain things. And they also, they're very woman friendly, because they cater to the women because they want that money. Women spend the most money. So they're basically just a Christian church with the Israelite twist. That's all the IUIC really is. Like I said, they really try to cater toward women and get guys to come. Because you mean I can get a wife? Same thing with ISUPK. Except they add smoking weed and doing it in a butt. To their to their advertisement, to bring in people carnally, because these people that come under the understanding that they're Israelite, but they still have that worldly church vibration on them. They gravitate more toward these type of organizations, which are really exactly that. They're organizations. They're not of God. They're not set up. They're not the prophets of the Lord. They are not. All right. So let's get some scriptures to back up the things that I'm saying. So this is let's go to the book of Judges. And I'm going to Judges 8 and 31. Or 30 through 31. And it reads, "And Gideon had 70 sons of his body begotten, for he had many wives. And his concubine that was at Shechem, she also bare him a son, whose name was called Abimelech. All right. So, what did it say? 70. So that's 20 and 10, 70 sons. All right. And then he had a son with his concubine. All right. So that's 71 sons. One woman can't have 71 children. That's why I said he had many wives. Yet there is not one scripture that say that says that Gideon was a sinner. As a matter of fact, Gideon was highly favored. He was a warrior for the Lord, a defender of Israel, a judge for Israel. And not once is there any precept that said he was going off or he was sinful, all right, because he had many wives. All right. See, that one wife is a Roman thing, an Edomite thing. That's never been the way of the Lord or the way of his people. All right. And Esau did that for political reasons and other reasons, for social reasons. Okay. Because even in the ancient time, before Alexander, took over Esau, Edom, they also had many wives. All right. All the nations did. And most cultures still do. Outside of the Western cultures. All right. Let's go to another scripture. Bible basics. Look, remember, the 12 tribes came out of 4 non-Israelite women, might I add. All right. All right. So between these 4 women who were not Israelites, these 4 wives, 2 wives and 2 concubines. All right. Jacob, whose name was changed to Yasharallah, Israel, had 12 sons and 1 daughter. He had 13 children out of these four women. All right. Jacob was never called a sinner. Was Jacob an adulterer? IUIC? Please answer the question. With scriptures. All right. So you people that are following that doctrine, that are following them, stop. All right, because the Lord and they're being put on blast for their wickedness anyway. That now I have my differences with ISUPK. I really don't like them guys, but I never would have put my hands on one of those brothers the way that these brothers did. That whole little thing. That was a bad look, man. That was a bad look. All right, because I still believe that some of the elect is going to be pulled from among them as well, man. All right. But let's go to the next scripture. Let's go to Samuel. It's 1 Samuel 1, and I'm gonna read verse 2 and 3. All right, and it reads, and he had 2 wives, and the name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other was Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. And this man went up out of his city yearly to worship and sacrifice unto Yahweh of hosts in Shiloh. So he went to Shiloh to worship before Yahweh, all right, while having 2 wives. And as you read through Samuel, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, all the way to the end of the chapters, through all the chapters, first chapter 1, 2, all the way to the end, not once did it say that this man was a fornicating adulteress or adulterer. All right, these guys are teaching that slave colonial plantation Christianity doctrine to the churches to please these women. All right, because they don't want to adhere to Isaiah 4:1, which is because you are allowed to have as many wives as you can support and take care of. All right. Now, it's not expedient for every man to do so. As a matter of fact, let me read those scriptures. Let's go to Isaiah. And it reads, and in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. Now, how do you get called by a man's name? By marrying him. And what is marriage? Sex. It explains it very plainly in Genesis, the 24th chapter in the 67th verse. All right. And I'll read it. And it says, and Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her, and Isaac was comforted. And after his mother's death, there was no ceremony, there was no paperwork, there was no signing of signatures, or any of that. All right. He put his member inside of her. All right. And he released his seed in her, on her, upside down, stepped on her head, pulled her hair, smacked on her, whatever Isaac did. All right. Within the law. All right. She became his wife. That's how you get married. Point blank period. If you belong to another man and he's smacking you on your butt, stepping on your head, pulling your hair, Now you both are adulterers. All right? Which is a sin that is worthy unto death. Okay? We'll get the law on that. All right? But first I'm going to read 1 Corinthians. All right? So now we know how you become married according to the Bible. All right? Not according to Esau, Edom. Not according to documentation of because they brought out that scripture about how they wrote everything down. Just because you wrote something down don't mean that doesn't make you wrote it down. The Lord already wrote down the laws. You can't add to or take away from. How about that? Okay? But let's go to 1 Corinthians, because we're not living in a time where it's expedient for a man to have multiple wives. As a matter of fact, to be honest, in most cases, it's best if you have no woman, especially in these days. Wives are going to be a hindrance, and to a lot of men, they're going to become a death trap. This is a bad time to be having wives and children. These babies that are being born, because the truth be said, hey, let's face it, brother, just because you got a child, your son or your daughter may not be of the elect. Just because you are. Remember that. Okay? Remember that. All right? You may be called to do this work, and you very well may be a man of the Lord, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your son and your daughter is. All right? Because they're born into this through you. But the Spirit brought you in, and I heard the elder Manat Zakba was talking about that today, and I was like, damn, that's heavy. All right. Now if your children have a spirit on them to do this work, that's a whole different thing. All right. But just because you're a man of the Lord and you just had your wife just brought forth your son or your daughter, that don't necessarily mean that your son or your daughter, are of the elect. We're going to hope and pray that they're covered. Your household is covered, but that's not always going to be the case. The scriptures tell you that, man. All right. But this is 1 Corinthians 6 and 12, and it reads, all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. So basically, just because, it's lawful for you to have multiple women, don't mean it's always wise to do so. All right? Because, more women, more problems. All right? More women, less time for the Lord. All right? So it's not always expedient to do so. All right. And if I'm not, and someone can put it on the comment board, the only person that's actually ordered in the Bible to have one wife is a bishop because of his position in the church. All right. There's not, and that's why, because his position is too important to be worried. If he's got all these wives, he can't worry about he can't really deal with the congregation. All right. So, but let's get the law on what actual adultery is. All right. I'm going to go to Leviticus, the 20th chapter. It's a chapter that Christians hate. That's why they scream the law is done away with. All right. They don't live by the law. All right. And this is Leviticus 20 and 10. And I'm going to read through verse 12. And it reads, and a man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, it just told you what adultery is. Even he that committeth adultery with a neighbor's wife. All right. So not only your neighbor's wife, but even a heathen. Just because she's a heathen, and they're heathens anyway. Well, the Lord still honors marriage. All right. The adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. Nothing good is going to come from that. All right. And, and a lot of these jakes in the world, man, they got a heavy adulterous spirit on them to want to sleep with other men's wives, man. That was a whole doctrine going around in the 90s. All right. To do so. Okay. Even when I was a young man, I had an older cat tell me that. When I was a young man in the Marine Corps. Said that's the best one to deal with, because they only want you for the good time, and they can go take all that drama back home. Here I'm thinking he put me on doctrine. What he was doing was sending me on a course to destruction. All right. But it says, verse 11, Leviticus 20 and 11, and the man that laughed with his father's wife have uncovered his father's nakedness, both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. Verse 12. And if any man lie with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall surely be put to death. They have wrought confusion, their blood shall be upon them. So in all three cases, 10, 12, and 11, 10 through 11, 10, 11, and 12, all three cases of adultery was a man lying with someone else's wife. That is adultery. Point blank, period. Okay? Meaning what? That woman was already married into a man, and how did she get married to him? Go back to Genesis 24 and 67. All right? The moment he went inside of her, all right, her untouched womb, all right, she became his wife. And that's the problem. These women today have many wives. I mean, many husbands. Because most of them have been with more men that they can count on both their fingers and toes, and their friends, their cousins, and their mamas and grandmamas too, before you even marry them. All right? They Jeremiah 3:1 like a like a mug. All right? But I didn't want to drag this on. I just wanted to, straighten up this guy, because this dude, this guy that spoke that, this IUIC cat, I think that's him at the top there. Yeah, that looks like him. This dude is not apt to teach. All right, he might as well have been, in a Christian Baptist church, what is it? Not the apologist, but apostolic, apostolic church. He may as well have been in one of those, man. All right? That dude is not apt to teach. Hey, so with that, I'm going to give all praises, all honor and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Karkadash, Wa Abba, Kwam Yasharala, Shalom.